Welcome back to LaxRatsTV. Super fun plan this week. Burnsy and I got the chance to speak with Aiden Carroll. So we're going to cut straight to that and then we'll circle back. We'll talk power rankings and TV viewership. Hope you guys enjoy. Today, joining me and Colin is Aiden Carroll. Aiden, obviously, this goes without being said, Georgetown All-American, PLL Whipsnake, currently solidified himself in the Rookie of the Year convo. Aiden, how you been doing, dude?
Doing well, no complaints. Happy to be here.
Let's go. Aiden, fired up to have you, man. You've obviously gotten off to a red hot start in PLL, so congrats to you.
Thank you.
You're really kicking butt, so keep it up. But kind of want to touch on your college career real quick. I know for the audience out there, correct me if I'm wrong, like the first year or two, you were a scout team guy, and then you end up graduating as Big East Player of the Year, All-American, solo captain. Like, take us through your career real quick. Kind of let everyone
Sure.
know.
Yeah, so I got recruited at the end or the beginning of my senior year. Georgetown was always kind of my dream school. Grew up watching Big East basketball. Um, Allen Iverson, Patrick Ewing. So Georgetown was always at the top of my list. And then when I got an offer, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. And then I got to Georgetown. Honestly, I wasn't really thinking about playing. I knew that at the time it was Jake Caraway was starting at attack. I thought that I would play midfield, maybe scrape the field by my junior year, which ended up happening. But yeah, my first year I had an injury. I had a foot injury, came in with that, and that was during COVID, so we really didn't have a fall then. And I think I got back by the end of the year just on the scout team, and it was fun for me because I had low expectations for myself, to be honest, which in retrospect was probably not the right sports psych approach to things, but yeah, had really low expectations for myself at the college level, and then got through that first year, and I really appreciated like when I got through my freshman year, I was playing against some of the best defensemen in the country, like James Donaldson, and then sophomore year I was playing with like Will Bowen. I got to go against those guys pretty much like every day, and I knew that even though I really wanted to get on the field, that there were a ton of guys in front of me that were at the time way better than me. Like Tucker Dordevic transferred in, a bunch of UNC guys, Nikki Solomon, Jacob Kelly. So I really wanted to play, but I also realized the situation in front of me. And then by my junior year, I scraped the field. I was second line midi, and in retrospect, it was like me, uh, Nikki Solomon, who at that time he was shooting like 50% on the year. So there were some like pretty solid kids on that team. I remember we lost in the quarterfinals that year, and I was like, this is kind of my time where I need to start taking command and being more of a leader. So that was the end of my junior year. By my senior year, I started to play attack because I had played midfield, and I started at attack. Um, yeah, and so that was senior year. That started to be the point where I felt a little more pressure on myself because the previous 3 years I was like, listen, there's guys in front of me that are really talented. But then senior year, I felt like, all right, now I really need to be a starter. And not only that, as a senior, Georgetown had won, I think, 4 or 5 Big East championships at that point, and it was like you don't want to be the ones to break that streak. So
Yeah.
went through the playoffs there, and then yeah, had a because I was hurt my first year, I had the opportunity to pursue a fifth year, and yeah, kind of the rest is history.
Um, so yeah, that's obviously an incredible story. I feel like there's a ton of kids out there who probably come into college with kind of a similar mindset as you, maybe on scout team as like freshman and sophomore year. Like, what advice would you give to them? Even if it's something as simple as just working their butts off every day, or just kind of what would you say to them, or what do you tell the younger Georgetown attackmen who are sitting behind you who are on scout team past this past year?
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple things. The first is like, do you really enjoy playing lacrosse? Like I was. I was someone who really enjoyed probably practicing during the summer and during the spring, during the fall, whatever it might be, maybe even more than games. And that's kind of what I felt it took to make a lot of progress and climb up the totem pole at the pace I did. I would say so. That's the first thing, whether you really enjoy it and you really like the process that much. And then two, I guess this is tailored to someone who had the same mindset as me, someone who wasn't super confident coming into college, even throughout the whole college career. Um, I think that being aggressive on the field and in practice should be a priority. I think that some kids try to, whether it's humility or just their play style, they want to they're more afraid of making a mistake than making a play. And you really have to, like, I think that you guys probably know this, but once you get towards the end of a season, you start to realize that being, and I, especially the PLL, I've realized that not being aggressive enough is, and kind of throwing the ball to someone else instead of making a play yourself and being assertive is a detriment to not just yourself, but the whole team. So I think reframing your mindset instead of thinking that being assertive and aggressive is a selfish thing. Um, in my mind, something that changed for me my junior and senior year was being aggressive and assertive is sort of the team play. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned, not just, I'd say even like the last few weeks playing in the PLL, that should be my priority. And I think I missed a lot of opportunities when I was younger. It's cool to be humble and selfless, but I think that it takes away, you can put yourself in a better spot early in your career if you bring the confidence, that self-confidence to the field.
Yeah, I think something that goes along with that is we have Coach Mads at Princeton always says make mistakes going full speed. And it's a
Yeah,
similar thing. If you're going to make a mistake, you might as well do it, trying to make a play rather than, just trying to toss a light pass to someone or something. So,
exactly. Yeah.
but
Totally. And
go
I
ahead,
feel
Colin.
like I was listening to Rabel have that roundtable conversation with some of the players this past week, and he kind of talked about, like, especially as a midfielder in the PLL, you really can't, like, quote unquote let the game come to you. You
Yeah.
really got to just go make plays yourself, and I feel like it's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's exactly. I think that especially in the PLL, you can't hide. There's only 19 guys or whatever it is on game day. So you got to be the one to make the play. But yeah, that's a perfect comparison right there.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
kind of just to cap off your college questioning career. Sorry, Chad.
I'll go.
But speaking of, like, coaches, Coach Warren, I've heard the only way to describe him is a cartoon character. What was it like? What was it like playing for him? Yeah.
Yeah, Coach Warren's definitely a character. One of the things that I really appreciated about Coach Warren was he, at the beginning of his coaching career, and he tells this story probably once or twice a year, but he, at the beginning of his coaching career at Georgetown, the Georgetown team was kind of in a rut and they weren't super successful. And he found that he was trying to be sort of that prototypical severe, stern coach, and he wasn't himself. And then 4 or 5 years in, he realized that he really just had to be himself and be joke around, and he'll yell at you for sure. I've been on the bad end of that quite a bit, but he he brings sort of that lighthearted nature that's just innate to him, and I think that's something that some coaches struggle with, and he did at Georgetown early on. But I was lucky to see the back half of that when he realized that he really had to be himself, and whether it's just his sayings or his coaching style, or the way he gets on kids and then we'll pump them up right after, I think that it's kind of a special thing to have in a coach.
Yeah, 100%. I think backtracking a little bit, I know you said you talked about like loving practice and sort of like falling in love with the process rather than outcomes and rather than, game day, I guess. But I guess how obviously in the PLL, like the opportunities to practice are, very few and far between, only getting one or two a week. How have you like kept that love for practice going throughout, I guess, you've only been in the league for what is like 7 or 8 weeks now. So
Yeah.
how have you kept that I guess that tenacity throughout the week, not really getting to be a part of, a locker room every single day like you are in college?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely points where, especially coming off a full season, where you get like a little tired of lacrosse, but those are kind of like blips on the radar. And the I think that one, just enjoying lacrosse in general, but two, you realize that your opportunity to compete is so finite. Like during your college career, you have a whole week where you can make mistakes. You can honestly get away with like half-assing it for like 5, 6 minutes, and then you can recover from that. But in the PLL, you only have a 2 hour practice at most and an hour and a half game. So I think that realizing that your opportunities are pretty finite. And then I think the other thing that, and this is the same in college, but we have we have a cool dynamic on our team where we have a lot of younger talent, but we also have some veterans like Matt Dunn, Rambo, Colin Heacock. I can go down the list, Tim Muller, that are true veterans in the league, and their their career is on like the latter half. Some of them are going to retire within the next like 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it may be. But realizing that you want to make those last years really special for them, and then also just because of I think their leadership ability is really special. So they make it really easy to compete for a team like that. And honestly, coming out of Georgetown, I wasn't sure how the PLL was going to shake out, whether I'd get drafted or not, but especially how the team dynamic would be, um, just because you're practicing once a week and you're just meeting these guys. And I think that our locker room is really special, that it makes that transition pretty smooth.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I guess more on the locker room. I know, like, obviously big win this weekend. Congratulations.
Thanks.
But you guys were down 5-2 going into halftime. So what was that like in the locker room? Give us a little snapshot of the Whips locker room at halftime there, getting ready to make that push to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it really started like the week prior. I think we had our probably our worst game of the season. And Coach Stagnita, I think he's one of the best motivators in the league. And not that we needed much motivation after losing like we did to the Outlaws, but the our approach was sort of one, our backs were against the wall, and if we didn't win that game, we would put ourselves in a pretty poor position. But that was one of
Yeah.
those games, and I'm sure you guys have had this experience at Princeton where you're like there's no way we're going to lose this game. So when we went down 3-0, I think Sowers had like the first three goals. The mentality was pretty calm, pretty straightforward. It was just like we're going to make the next play. Um, and there's a clip of Mac Dunn yelling at halftime where I honestly I think he was more echoing the team sentiment than really being the only guy to be kind of outraged by the situation. I think everyone was just thinking, at least on the offensive end, that once we get our opportunities and can some of these shots, that will be good.
Hell yeah. That's I mean, tying into that too, just this will be the last question on the PLL, but
Yeah, of course.
um so obviously you guys like right now you're tied with the Cannons in the standings. I mean, obviously you have the score differential on them, but you talked about that youth and that, there's a lot of excitement, I feel like, around the Whipsnakes, but with a lot of youth comes a lot of unknowns too. And you guys have shown like flashes of greatness and you've had some games like you talked about where you've, been in a bit of a lull. What do you guys have to do as a team? And what are really the bullet points for you guys that you have in your locker room that like this is how we're gonna make the playoffs and this is how we're gonna make a splash once we get there?
Yeah, I think that there's some like technical on the field stuff, like offensively, just dodging and moving it twice. I mean, I've heard that since youth
Yeah.
lacrosse, but it really does it does make a difference in the PLL, especially with short possessions. I think it gets tempting to just dodge and shoot right away. But I think that the biggest thing in this, it goes back to what I said before, but Matt Dunn had said in the locker room that Tim Muller. So to give you guys the full backstory, like we were, I think it was 6-0 at that point when Tim Muller came into the huddle, and he was like, basically, we can't do this the entire season. We have to be able to, turn it up a notch and kind of play free. And I think that we kind of have to find that attitude, but for 4 quarters. I mean, we haven't played 4 quarters throughout the season so far, and I think to beat these teams, I mean, there's so much parity in the PLL that you just really need to play 4 quarters. We got away with it this week, but going forward, teams are going to be ready. So definitely play 4 quarters and kind of find that killer mindset early in the game.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, me and Burnsy, we have some fun LaxRat type questions that we always like to talk about behind the scenes. So one that that I always like to ask everyone, give me your Mount Rushmore. So 4 dudes that are the most influential on your game and your career.
That's a good question. I would say Pat Spencer was always the guy that I would watch before games in high school. So Pat Spencer is definitely up there. Jake Carraway, obviously a Georgetown guy. We'll bucket Jake Carraway and Danby Carl in the same, and we'll count that as one because they're both
we're massive Danby Carl fans.
I've watched those Yale on Chris Fake one-on-one matchup YouTube highlights.
Dude,
they're unreal.
The one hand tuck,
unreal.
The one hand tuck up the righty hash is one of my favorite goals of all time.
Unreal.
Oh my God, yeah, he's incredible. He's so fast too. Yeah, so definitely those guys being Georgetown guys. And then, I mean, let's see. I want to say Sergio Salcido. I remember watching a ton. Not really the same play style as me at all. Yeah. But I was like, he was one of those guys who just kind of like worked at it. Had a really good split dodge. Was pretty technical in his approach to the game. And then,
I mean, 100%. Like you can throw in dudes that just made you love the game more too.
Yeah,
sounds like he might be.
Let's see. I mean, Pennell. Pennell was Pennell. I think I had his like attack. I don't know if he still has it, but it was like Attack Academy app.
Yeah. Wait, the app. I don't think I ever had that app.
I got like the free version, and then he tried to get me to pay, and I had to delete it. So just screen record the videos, and then and then you're off. But Pennell for sure.
Hell yeah!
Love that.
Love that. You want to ask the last one?
Yeah. So I got 2 here. First is hardest cover all time for you. So that can be a kid who guarded you from Boston in high school, a Georgetown kid in practice, or anyone you played in college, or in your short time in the PLL so far.
Yeah, let's see. It's a good one. I mean, so Rowlett was my assistant coach. I think he was like the 3rd assistant my freshman and sophomore year, and we would battle after practice. And I think the first time I went against him, I kind of snuck a few by him, and then he came back the next week and he was like, "Yeah, I've been doing ladders all week." And I was like, "Oh shit!" And then I mean, you can see how physical he plays. And me as a freshman, I was probably the same size I am now, but less control of my body. And he just kind of destroyed, I couldn't even get to goal line, much less get to the net. But he's so talented, so strong. In the All-Star game, I made the mistake of trying to do a dummy dodge on him, and he almost took the ball away from me. But Rowlett, that guy's incredible.
Dude, he coaches at BU now. And I know a couple of BU guys have heard great stories. He seems like a LaxRat through and through. That dude just loves the game.
Oh my God, yeah. 100%.
God. All right, next question. Pretty similar, but best goalie you've gone up against.
Yeah. I think Logan McNaney. He's so talented.
That's a sore subject for us too. So.
We fought our days against him.
Yeah, he's just so patient, and even when he's baiting you to a certain spot, he just like he seems like he's one step ahead of you, um, and he's just so stone cold stoic in the net. That's it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah. No, he's those kinds of
100%.
goalies for me are like the most frustrating to play against because like even if you pick a spot, it's just everything's always so effortless. So he'll just like
Yeah,
clean save and you
yeah.
feel horrible about your shots.
Especially
When
if
a
you put
goalie's
one
touching your
high and he
shots,
just up and out.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're shooting every step down you take is like shooting a 2-pointer on him. Just makes it look too easy.
And you think you're gonna score too because he's on the smaller side. You see a lot of net, so you're like, I
Right,
feel good
right.
about this, but it's just tough.
Yeah, I remember watching him playing like the Under Armour All-American game back when it was Under Armour before New Balance. I think it was. He had like 16 saves, and I was like, that kid is unbelievable. And then sure enough,
I mean,
saves a
dude,
couple of my
some
shots in
of
the
his stats
quarterfinals.
are absolutely ridiculous. Like I think he went to 4 title games, didn't he? Like that's
Yeah, yeah, I
insane.
think so.
There can't be anyone else who can say that, I would imagine. And now he's killing it in
Yeah,
the PLL too.
ridiculous.
So I think it's a
Yeah.
pretty fair take. All right. Well, Aiden, thanks for hopping on, dude. That was fun. Hopefully we'll catch you again sometime and good luck this weekend.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hey, AC, you're the man. Good
We'll
chatting.
see ya.
See ya. All right, guys, time to talk power rankings. So, obviously, as per usual, we're going 1 through 8, but I went back again. I think tiers are the best way to do power rankings. So I did rank them 1 through 8, but we've also got 3 tiers. We've got the first tier. We've got 2 teams. We've got the Atlas at 1 and the Outlaws at 2. I'm seeing a bunch of people put Denver at 1 over the Atlas. But honestly, I just think like obviously Denver's such a fun team to watch. Their talent's insane. I mean, if you watch that Cannons Outlaws game this past weekend, it was one of the better lacrosse games, one of the more entertaining lacrosse games I've ever watched. So if you didn't get a chance to catch that one, definitely go back, watch the highlights. Although one complaint, the PLL clearly this last week, or maybe I think it might have only been that game, the highlights are horrible. They're clearly edited like by AI or something. It randomly slows down. Clips aren't lined up right. So hopefully they figure that out. But I don't know. I mean, the PLL highlights are so fun to watch. So I hope that they clean that up a little bit. That's the only time that's ever happened. But you guys definitely should go back and watch that game because it was so much fun to watch. 18-17 battle. And then Atlas at 1. Obviously, I've had the Atlas at 1 for I think 3 weeks in a row now. Like I said, when they're humming, they are the best team I've watched. That is full stop. I think an important thing to note is, they're 5-2, obviously. They're three attackmen, obviously 3 of the biggest names in the league, 3 of the most talented players in the league, in my opinion. You got Shelley, Teat, and Xander. Obviously, Shelley and Teat are both, in the MVP conversation. This attack line is insane, and their games all complement each other so well. But the 2 times we've seen them lose, I think I mean, this might go without saying, but like if Shelley, Teat, and Xander are all at the top of the box score, then you lost. There's no way you're winning that game. The 2 games they lost, I think Shelley went a little quiet week 1 against the Cannons, and then they lost to Maryland, I believe it was, and Teat went a little quiet. I think the only way you can stop this team is if you mess with this lineup. If these 3 guys are humming, it feels like it almost doesn't matter how well the other team's playing because they're going to operate at such a high efficiency. Also assuming Baptiste gets the ball to them at the ridiculous rate that he usually does. But yeah, so that's tier 1. Calling that just championship tier. Like that should be the championship. I honestly think we'd be robbed of the best championship game in PLL history if it's not New York and Denver. I saw they moved this week not this week when they play. I think they meet in Denver in a couple weeks, and they moved that game 1 p.m. ABC. That should be unbelievable for the exposure of the game, for the exposure of the PLL, because anybody who flips through ABC and watches that game should see, the two best teams in the world, and frankly, it's not even close right now, and some of the most outrageous talent that we've seen, in this generation. So, all right, Tier 2 this week, we've got 3 teams. We have the Philly Water Dogs at number 3 in the league, Boston Cannons at number 4, and Maryland Whipsnakes at number 5. Honestly, this is a tier where this tier and the one below it are almost just whoever shows up on that day is going to win the game. All these teams have the capabilities to beat each other. I think these 3 teams all have championship aspects of their team, but fall short in one sense or the other. Obviously, I've talked a lot about Boston the last couple of weeks. 3 and 4, I'm trying not to drop them too far. After losing 3 in a row, I don't really want to overreact because 3 losses in a row. I don't want to. No losses are good, but two of their losses are New York and Denver, the 2 top teams in the world right now. And then the last one was just Blaze, being a goat for the second half of the game, and absolutely taking over, which he does do from time to time. So, I don't want to. It's not a cop out for them, to say I'm not trying to cop them out by saying that, but it definitely should be noted that even though the Chaos loss and the New York loss, those weren't great losses, but maybe not Denver, you could say, was a quote unquote good loss if those exist. But they could be worse, right? New York, I think, like I said, I think very highly of New York, and they, Boston rightfully got spanked by them because I think New York is the best team I've seen when they're humming. And then the Chaos one, Blaze being Blaze. So I really hope they figure it out, because I do have a lot of fun watching this team, and I hope they throw Coulter back in the lineup because he fucking deserves it. Next here, we have 6 and 7. At 6, we've got Utah, and 7, we have Carolina. So this is a tier that they have some things to figure out before they can make a splash. I think the yellow team, the second tier, with Philly, Boston, and Maryland can make a splash in the playoffs if they get hot at the right time. This tier, I just don't feel as confident in that happening. I feel a little more confident that Utah could do it more so than Carolina. But both of these teams, like I said, they have the ability to beat any of the teams in the yellow. In tier 2. If things go right, they both have strengths. Obviously, Utah's defense, we did see them. There were definitely a couple, red flags in this game last weekend against Carolina with the defense. But I think part of that, you also have to give some flowers to Carolina's offense and the development there, especially between Ross Scott and Owen Hiltz. But these two teams are, they can be great and they can be not great. So, it's tough to know what you're getting from them too, week in and week out. But when they're good, they're good. When they're not, they're not. Last team in the league, number 8. Obviously, it's California. Unfortunately, this team, honestly, they're probably they're top 4 fun to watch team. They're so fun to watch, and they were really putting up a fight this last weekend against New York. But just the youth, the inexperience, it's a combo of youth, inexperience. Obviously, those two come hand in hand, and then this roster kind of not playing together very much. This is a group of guys that hasn't been together for years, like some other teams have. So there's, you have the whole new coaching staff. So they really have everything working against them. And I think they've still exceeded expectations considering, some of the circumstances that they've dealt with this year. But, I don't think they're going to finish 2-5 or 2-8. They're going to, I bet you they sneak out 4 wins. So, fun team, super fun team to watch, but unfortunately they are kind of the punching bag of the league right now. All right, TV viewership. I'll throw the post up here from Quickstick Blog on Twitter or X. Some exciting stuff. I'll just read. Through 7 weeks and the All-Star game, the PL is averaging around 210,000 viewers per game. That's plus 1.5% year over year through this time frame. The All-Star game highlighted past weeks averaging around 268,000 viewers, plus 80% year over year. That's just because they moved it from ESPN to ABC, I believe. And is the PLL's most viewed ESPN broadcast ever. Never mind, I guess it was on ESPN. Sadly, Utah-Carolina on 7/18 was the least viewed game since 22. So, I mean, the Utah-Carolina game, I almost just want to scratch because that game was on ESPN2 at 9:05 p.m. So, obviously, I don't think you're gonna pull a great crowd with that time slot and being on ESPN's secondary channel. But a lot of things to be excited about. Like, you see, the last Quick Stick blog is kind of quell some of the worries that we talked about when they posted that, where it said it was down 1%, down 3% maybe even. But I mean, this is super exciting. More games on ABC, way more games nationally televised, and more people are watching. So, 2 + 2 is 4. That sounds pretty good to me. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll hit you on Instagram this week with our pick'ems. And we will catch you after this PLO weekend out in Utah, I believe.